Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Carlene.
And I'm Jay. We're also known as Jaylene.
On this channel, we recap and provide our reviews for Married at First Sight.
Today, we'll be reviewing episode 19, Sliding Towards Decision Day. Thank you, Jesus.
If you subscribed, commented, or liked our videos, thank you. We really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please subscribe now and click the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. We're going to start off with Gina and Clint. So Clint in his confessional talked about the things Gina said during the meeting with Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal. He was blindsided and was trying to process what was said. Gina and Clint had a quiet ride up to the ranch because he thinks Gina attacked his character. When they were introduced to the ranch owner, Clint shook her hand and kissed his hand. Gina looked like she wanted to point out, see, that's the weird behavior as proof, but she just looked annoyed. And to piss her off even more, he asked if he could wear his cowboy hat. In her confessional, Gina said she gave Clint a harsh review because he has a lot of maturing to do. Clint started talking to and rubbing the horse he was going to be riding because he couldn't do that with his wife. After their relaxing horse riding, Clint said they were going to have a picnic lunch. This was something Clint prepared, so he wasn't going to let Gina starve until decision day. Clint couldn't help but bring up the insulting things Gina said about him. Not only did she correct him because Clint was quoting her wrong, but she continued to insult him in that very moment. I think Gina said those things, so there's no question that on decision day, she will be asking for a divorce. He was like, you never said this stuff before. Gina started listing all the behaviors she perceived to be weird and apologized if she made him feel bad. Clint said he went into marriage because he wanted to meet his forever, and he was never able to do so, even now. Gina talked about how the process was a lot in a short amount of time. She did this process because she wanted to be with someone, just not Clint.
There are so many issues here with Gina. If I'm Clint, I wouldn't have made a date for a picnic. I would not waste my time messing with her. It's obvious that she's not into Clint. She didn't put in any kind of effort or work into this marriage. And the only reason why she's on this show is to promote her business. She's not here for love or for marriage. She might like the idea of marriage, but she's just wasting all our times here.
Jasmine Airris. So Airris and McKinley met up for boxing, and Airris says he is more at peace and has been focusing on the positive rather than attraction. Then Airris dissed Gina and Clint because he actually sleeps in the same bed as his wife. Airris wanted to know what was going on with Gina and McKinley. McKinley said that he slid in Gina's DMs because he was interested in her friend. He goes on to say how he not only thinks that Gina is good looking, but he feels the same way about all the women in the season. Every time McKinley speaks, I remember when he was drunk with the other husbands and he was complimenting Gina. Airris just paused when he said that. So when Gina and Clint gets a divorce, McKinley is going back into Gina's DMs.
I'm annoyed at production for showing us that preview, making us think that he actually got into Gina's DMs to get with her. That would have made a better storyline for this episode since nothing was really going on in this episode. But McKinley, I see how they're showing him love, but not Dom bringing him back on the show. Partly probably because he was recruited and he needed to get some money for being on the show.
Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper met with Jasmine and Airris 3 days before decision day. Airris is the only one still honoring his no shoes in the home policy. When Airris started talking, he progressively got closer to his wife. This is a good sign. He mentioned all the tools they receive and how they've been using them. Jasmine says that Airris checks in on her throughout the day, and Airris wanted his recognition for following through with Dr. Pepper's suggestions.
Unlike Gina and Clint.
Pastor Cal asked the couple, how have they rubbed off on each other? So Airris says how Jasmine makes him not want to drink in social settings due to her high energy. When Airris says what he has is good, Jasmine looked tired or checked out, almost like she wanted to say, "It's good for you, but I want more." They had to face each other and say nice things to each other. They just looked awkward, but Pastor Cal encouraged them to do more. Jasmine doesn't know if the marriage can get better, but Pastor Cal says they won't really know until the experiment is over. So that's why production encourages couples to say yes on decision day, and by the reunion, they are divorced. The couple went kayaking, and it looked like Jasmine was doing most of the work. In her confessional, Jasmine says she loves the activities that they are doing, but she wants Airris to be more intentional if they decide to stay together on decision day. They reflected on their journey, and Airris seemed like he already made his mind up, but Jasmine said she was going back and forth. Kirsten and Shaquille. The couple went to a recording studio at a songwriter's house to write a song about their journey. The inspirational bunny, Wade Wilson, made an appearance to help them with this task. Shaquille said they agreed that the journey has been an emotional roller coaster, and this was the theme used throughout the entire episode. They mentioned places they've been together like Jamaica and Gatlinburg, and Shaquille was like from the beach to the mountains. The songwriter complimented his efforts and continued doing so. Kirsten tells Shaquille that she wants to be there for him and how he feels matters. It just looked like Shaquille was annoyed and he wanted Kirsten to stop talking so he could hear the song he just created. Shaquille was more excited listening to the lady sing than to hear his wife talk. Then he gonna encourage Kirsten to sing, and Kirsten walked right into it. At least Shaquille complimented his wife. He just couldn't stop laughing at her. In her confessional, Kirsten is liking the way her husband is smiling and looking at her. She is reminded of the good times that they had and all the accomplishments that they made. Kirsten is hoping that her husband can remember those things too. I thought it was a cool experience to write a song about your relationship. Shaquille says this was one of the best dates they had. And Shaquille says he wants to feel secure in the marriage, but at times he doesn't feel that way. The look on Kirsten's face. She wanted to say something opposite than what she did say, but she had to really think about it for a second. Kirsten keeps telling her husband that she is there for him, and Shaquille feels like he shows her affection, but he isn't getting the same support from her, that he needs to be happy. Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper met with Kirsten and Shaquille. Kirsten says that she is letting Shaquille lead, and she finally allowed Kirsten to meet her dad. But Shaquille was like, why couldn't it be sooner? Shaquille will continue to point out everything that isn't going his way. Dr. Pepper tells him that all families operate differently, and then Pastor Cal is going to lie to them saying that they are a potential power couple. Where?
I didn't understand the power couple comment. He seems to be throwing that around with a lot of black couples that come on this show. And I'm like, don't do that to the people. This is very embarrassing.
Okay, we'll talk about Nicole and Chris. Nicole set up a meal outside by a chef, and Chris thought that the food pusher was made by this season's... I'm so used to saying the food pusher, but he actually thought that Clint was the one that was making the meal, and she said no, it wasn't. So Nicole started making jokes about decision day and how she wanted to be with the steak rather than her husband. The chef brought out a lavender Earl Grey creme brulee that they had to torch, and the chef made it a competition. Nicole looked disappointed when he said that Chris was winning. Nicole thought back to mini golfing and was like, no, I can't lose this too. She fought hard and was happy when the chef acknowledged her efforts. Chris was trying to enjoy his dessert, but looked annoyed when his wife talked about losing comfortability. He knew where the conversation was going, and he didn't want to go there with her. But surprisingly, he brought it up first, and he talked about If they went months without living with each other, how the communication would revert back. Nicole made it clear that she wants them to live together. Chris tells Nicole that he wants them to focus on decision day because living together is a huge commitment. So Chris is telling Nicole his answer with that statement.
But isn't getting married a huge decision? So you're willing to marry a person but not live with them. Isn't that a part of marriage? So Chris is getting on my nerves here for that particular comment. I understand Nicole's point of view, and I'm glad she's just voicing it. And if Chris is not on board, forget him. I know that Nicole does want to be divorced. I think she would stay with whoever she was matched with, because she's that type of person who wants to have it actually work, unlike Gina. But I think she should cut her losses if he does not want to move in after decision day, because it's already going to be a lot of effort to find a place that's going to take 3 dogs if they're not renting a house or getting their own house.
The husbands and wives met up at different restaurants. The guys reflected on when they first met and had a seat for McKinley. Airris didn't feel it was his place to bring up what McKinley said about Gina. Airris, you would be right in this situation. Chris told the guys how he didn't like when Nicole continued to ask what his answer would be if today was decision day. He wanted to know what he was doing for her to continue doing that. Clint just wanted to know when they were going to have their first argument. Kirsten wants to reassure Shaquille that it will get better in time. Then Nicole thought she was a counselor again and went on about how great she thinks their marriage is. Shaquille shared how he met Kirsten's dad, finally, and questioned why it took so long. He described her father as being loving and hopes he can be a father figure towards him. This made Shaquille optimistic. When Clint asked Shaquille if they had fun together, meaning with his wife, he paused and said they haven't had fun during this process. Shaquille wants everything. Everything to be perfect, and if it's one thing short of perfection, he doesn't want it. Shaquille feels secure going to sleep and waking up next to Kirsten, and when she says good morning. When asked if he missed the single life, Airris said yes and no. He talked about missing Jasmine and Duchess when he had to leave early from the couples retreat. Airris had a lot of good things to say about his wife, including being inspired by her and how she creates a peaceful environment at home. Aren't those important aspects of marriage? Jasmine shared how Airris was throwing money at her while she was pole dancing. He told her she looked sexy, but she wants to see some quick action. She shared with the girls how Airris wants their intimacy to grow after decision day, and Kirsten was happy to hear this news. Jasmine is thinking about what she wants to do and not what Airris is going or not going to do. The girls were inspired by her confidence. I think Jasmine is remembering the tips from Devon Franklin, when he talked to her a few episodes ago. This is a good sign, Jasmine. When the girls were on the dance floor, they were approached by a group of men. Nicole was so drunk because she told the guys how they were married, but some might not be soon. This is true, but they don't need to know that. When the guys were making fun of her husband, she said that she felt comfortable and she believes her boundaries were respected. Kirsten reminded them that she had a husband. In her confessional, Jasmine says she likes the attention and couldn't stop laughing. She was drunk too. Airris told her not to be out there slipping.
I just didn't like this part of the episode where production made these dudes either come on the show or went over to them and say, can you guys just go and talk to these ladies so we can have something to film? I just felt that was kind of forced. And then based on the reactions of the guys talking to the ladies, and one guy talking to Jasmine, like pretty much trying to take her home. One, knowing that she's married. Two, seeing how uncomfortable she is. and pretty much saying, I want to sleep with you, I'll fix your chain later on. I'm like, it didn't make any sense to me. I thought that was really a waste of time. Entertaining a little bit, but a waste of time, because since they had nothing else going on in this episode.
Each couple reflected on their outings. So Gina tells Clint how guys approached them and were throwing out numbers. This surprised Clint. Nicole tells Chris how one of the guys took a liking to Jasmine. And giving all the details, I really thought Kirsten would have been the one saying the stuff to Shaquille. You know how those two like to talk about meetings with the guys and the girls. In bed, Kirsten was trying to knock some sense into Shaquille right before decision day. I don't know if it was bad editing, but Kirsten was saying all these things and Shaquille was like, Lord, it's on you. Which is true, but it seems like Shaquille is just waiting to get this over with.
Shaq, you're not the only one. We're all waiting for this to be over with. So let's talk about decision day and what the couples will and should do. For Clint and Gina, we all know that should just be a no. Clint actually gave an effort in this process. Gina did not, after being called fat, or what she thought she was being called fat. And since she didn't want to move into the apartment initially, and then they slept in separate bedrooms, and then she only talked to Clint before they went to sleep, but pretty much that relationship was all about Clint and Hank. So that should be a no. Hopefully it is a no on both parts, and production does not make them say yes and then work on it after the cameras go away. For Jasmine and Airris, they should both just say no. It's too much about the attraction for Airris, and if that is the case, he shouldn't have been on the show to begin with. Especially, I feel he was recruited as well. And those are the wrong people to bring on the show, especially if they're men. Kirsten and Shaquille, no. Their communication style is just so off as far as what they're hearing from each other. They can't get past that. If they wanted to stay together, they would need actual couples counseling better than they got on this show. Nicole and Chris, I can see them both saying yes. The only reason why I would say they should say no is if Nicole can't control her negative thoughts and actions. If she can control that aspect, I think they can work it out and be fine.
For Gina and Clint, it should be a no, but I think Clint might visit just to meet back up with his buddy Hank. For Jasmine and Airris, it should be a no. If it was earlier in the season, maybe Jasmine would have said yes, but at this point, I think both will say no. For Kirsten and Shaquille, it should be a no. Maybe Kirsten would say yes to see if something can happen after decision day. And then for Nicole and Chris, they're probably going to say yes. Well, that's all we have for episode 19. What are your thoughts on episode 19? Please share your predictions in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe and like. Go ahead and enjoy that hype. While you're at it, leave a comment if you see fit. We'd love to review it, and click the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos.
Later, everyone.
Bye.